The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Practical Vedanta, Part 4, Segment 2. According to the dualism, man dies and goes into other worlds, and so forth. And these ideas are kept in Vedanta in their entirety. For with the recognition of growth in the Advaitist system, these theories are given their proper place by admitting that they represent only a partial view of the truth. From the dualistic standpoint, this universe can only be looked upon as a creation of matter or force, and can only be looked upon as a play of a certain will, and that will again can be only looked upon as separate from the universe. Thus, a man from such a standpoint has to see himself as composed of a dual nature, body and soul, and this soul, though limited, is individually complete in itself. Such a man's ideas of immortality and of future life would necessarily accord with his idea of the soul. These phases have been kept in the Vedanta, and it is therefore necessary for me to present to you a few of the popular ideas of dualism. According to this theory, we have a body, of course, and behind the body there is what we call a fine body. The fine body is also made of matter, only very fine. It is the receptacle of all our karma, of all our actions and impressions, which are ready to spring up into visible forms. Every thought that we think, every deed that we do, after a certain time becomes fine, goes into seed form, so to speak, and lives in the fine body in a potential form. And after a time it emerges again and bears its results. These results condition the life of man. Thus he molds his own life. Man is not bound by other laws excepting those which he makes for himself. Our thoughts, our words and deeds are the threads of the net which we throw around ourselves, for good or for evil. Once we set in motion a certain power, we have to take the full consequences of it. This is the law of karma. Behind the subtle body lives jiva, or the individual soul of man. There are various discussions about the form and the size of this individual soul. According to some, it is very small like an atom. According to others, it is not so small as that. According to still others, it is very big, and so on. This jiva is a part of that universal substance, and it is also eternal. Without beginning it is existing, and without end it will exist. It is passing through all the forms in order to manifest its real nature, which is purity. Every action that retards this manifestation is called an evil action. So with thoughts, and every action and every thought that helps the jiva to expand, to manifest its real nature, is good. One theory that is held in common in India by the crudest dualists, as well as by the most advanced non-dualists, is that all the possibilities and the powers of soul are within it, and do not come from any external source. They are in the soul in potential form, and the whole work of life is simply directed towards manifesting those potentialities. They have also the theory of reincarnation, which says that after the dissolution of this body, the jiva will have another, and after that has been dissolved, it will again have another, and so on, either here or in some other worlds. But this world is given the preference as it is considered the best of all worlds for our purpose. Other worlds are conceived of as worlds where there is very little misery, but that for that very reason they argue there is less chance of thinking of higher things there. As this world contains some happiness and a good deal of misery, the jiva sometime or the other gets awakened, as it were, and thinking of freeing itself. But just as very rich persons in this world have least chance of thinking of higher things, so also the jiva in heaven has little chance of progress, for its condition is the same as that of a rich man, only more intensified. It has a very fine body which knows no disease and is under no necessity of eating or drinking, and all its desires are fulfilled. The jiva lives there, having enjoyment after enjoyment, and so forgets all about its real nature. Still, there are some higher worlds, where in spite of all enjoyments, its further evolution is possible. Some dualists conceive of the goal as the highest heaven, where souls will live with the God forever. They will have beautiful bodies and will know neither disease nor death, nor any other evil, and all their desires will be fulfilled. From time to time, some of them will come back to this earth and take another body to teach human beings the way to God. And the great teachers of the world have been such. They were already free and were living with God in the highest sphere. But their love and the sympathy for suffering humanity was so great that they came and incarnated again to teach mankind the way to heaven. Of course, we know that the Advaita holds that this cannot be the goal or the ideal. Bodiliness must be the ideal. The ideal cannot be finite. Anything short of the infinite cannot be the ideal. And there cannot be an infinite body. That would be impossible, as the body comes with limitations. There cannot be infinite thought, because thought comes from limitation. We have to go beyond the body and beyond thought also too, says the Advaita. And we have also seen that according to the Advaita, this freedom is not to be attained, it is already ours. This freedom, we only forget about it and deny it. Perfection is not to be attained, it is already within us. Perfection is not to be attained, it is already within us, because immortality and bliss are not to be acquired. We possess them already. They have been ours all the time. If you dare declare that you are free, free you are this moment. If you say you are bound, bound you will remain. This is what Advaita boldly declares. I have told you that the ideas of the dualists, you can take whichever you like. The highest ideal of Vedanta is very difficult to understand, and people are always quarreling about it. And people are always thinking that the greatest difficulty is that when they get hold of certain ideas, they deny and fight other ideas. Take up what suits you and let others take up what they need. If you are desirous of clinging to this little individuality, to this little manhood, remain in it. Have all these desires and be content and pleased with them. If your experience of manhood has been very good and nice, retain it as long as you like. And you can do so, for you are the makers of your own fortunes. None can compel you to give up your manhood. You will be men as long as you like. None can prevent you. If you want to be angels, you will be angels. That is the law. And there may be others who do not want to be angels even. What right have you to think that theirs is a horrible notion? You may be frightened to lose 100 pounds, but there may be others who would not even wink if they lost all the money they had in the world. There have been such men, and still there are. Why do you dare to judge them according to your standards? You cling to your own limitations, and these little worldly ideas may be your highest ideal. You are welcome to them. It will be to you as you wish. But there are others who have seen the truth and cannot rest in these limitations, who are done with these things and want to get beyond. The world with all its enjoyments is a mere mud puddle for them. Why do you want to bind them down with your ideas? You must get rid of this tendency once for all. Accord a place to everyone. I once read a story about some ships that were caught in a cyclone in the South Sea Islands. And there was a picture in the illustrated London news. All of them were wrecked except one. One English vessel which weathered the storm. The picture showed the men who were going to be drowned standing on the decks and cheering the people who were sailing through the storm. HMS Calliope and the American men of war at Samoa. Be brave and generous like that. Do not drag others down to where you are. Another foolish notion is that if we lose our individuality, there will be no morality, no hope for humanity. As if everybody had been dying for humanity all the time. God bless you. If in every country there were 200 men and women really wanting to do good to humanity, the millennium would come in 5 days. We know how we are dying for humanity. These are all tall talks and nothing else. The history of the world shows that those who never thought of their little individuality were the greatest benefactors of the human race. And that the more men and women think of themselves, the less are they able to do good for others. One is unselfishness and the other selfishness. Cling on to the little enjoyments and to desire the continuation and the repetition of these things is utter selfishness. It arises not from any desire for truth. Its genesis is not in kindness for other beings, but in the utter selfishness of the human heart in the idea, I will have everything and do not care for anyone else. This is as it appears to me. I would like to see more moral men in the world like some of those grand old prophets and sages of ancient times who would have given up 100 lives if they could by so doing benefit to one little animal. Talk of morality and doing good to others, silly talk of the present time. I would like to see moral men like Gautam Buddha who did not believe in a personal God or a personal soul, never asked about them but was a perfect agnostic, and yet was ready to lay down his life for anyone and worked all his life for the good of all, and thought only of the good of all. Well has it been said by his biographer in describing his birth that he was born for the good of many, as a blessing to the many. He did not go to the forest to meditate for his own salvation. He felt that the world was burning and that he must find out a way, and to the question, why is there so much misery in the world? This was the one question that dominated his whole life. Do you think we are so moral as the Buddha? The more selfish a man, the more immoral he is, and so also with the race. That race which is bound down to itself has been the most cruel and the most wicked in the whole world. And there has not been a religion that has clung to this dualism more than that which has been founded by the Prophet of Arabia. And there has not been a religion which has shed so much blood and been so cruel to other men. In the Quran, there is this doctrine that a man who does not believe these teachings should be killed. It is a mercy to kill him, and surest way to get to heaven, where there are these beautiful huris and all sorts of sense enjoyments, is by killing the unbelievers. Think of the bloodshed that has been in the consequence of such beliefs. In the religion of Christ, there was a little crudeness. There is a very little difference between the pure religion of Christ and that of the Vedanta. You find that the idea of oneness, but Christ also preached dualistic ideas to the people in order to give them something tangible to take hold of, to lead them up to the highest ideal. The same prophet who preached, "Our Father who art in heaven," and also preached that I and my Father are one. And the same prophet knew that through the Father in heaven lies the way to the I and my Father are one. There was only blessing and love in the religion of Christ, but as soon as crudeness crept in, it was degraded into something not much better than the religion of the Prophet of Arabia. It was crudeness indeed, this fight for the little self, this clinging on to the I, not only in this life but also in the desire for its continuation even after death. This they declare to be unselfishness. This the foundation of morality. Lord help us if this be the foundation of morality. And strangely enough, men and women who ought to know better think all morality will be destroyed if these little selves go and stand aghast at the idea that morality can only stand up upon their destruction. The watchword of all well-being, of all moral good is not I but thou. Who cares whether there is a heaven or hell? Who cares if there is a soul or not? Who cares if there is an unchangeable or not? Here is the world, and it is full of misery. Go out into it as Buddha did and struggle to lessen it or die in the attempt. Forget yourselves. This is the first lesson to be learned. Whether you are a theist or an atheist, whether you are an agnostic or a Vedantist, a Christian or a Mohammedan, the one lesson obvious to all is the destruction of the little self and the building up of the real self. To be continued.